Hi, this is Emily Saliers from Indigo Girls, and you're listening to Rainbow Country.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, award-winning New York Times best-selling author Julie Lythcott Haims joins me to talk about her latest book, Your Turn, How to Be an Adult, described as a guide to adulthood. Let me say this, girl, adultin' ain't easy.
Hello, my name is Conchita.
And I'm Barbecue.
And my name is Hardcora. And we are the Beat Girls.
You're listening to
Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT-FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together, we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #2 LGBT podcast on Feedspot.com. So today, award-winning New York Times best-selling author Julie Lythcott Haims joins me to talk about Your Turn, How to Be an Adult, described as a guide to adulthood. So have you heard the term adulting? Well, Julie will give us the background as to how that new term came to be. We'll also find out about her involvement in the 2008 presidential election with Barack Obama, as well as being part of the LGBT community. And later on in the show, TIFF CEO Cameron Bailey joins me to fill us in on what we can expect at this year's Toronto International Film Festival. Plus in hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and on this episode I'm featuring some classic 80s new wave, some queer, electronic, and more. All that lies ahead as we start this journey 316, through Rainbow Country, and our first stop is the Rainbow Country School for Canadian Gay History. Today's lesson from activist and author Tim McCaskill, who talks about Operation Soap, the Toronto bathhouse raids that happened on February the 5th, 1981.
If we think of the 1970s as the period where the gay community was trying to get noticed, the 1980s was the time when we actually got noticed and started getting seriously slammed. The cops had never been happy with Trudeau's 1969 decriminalization. If you look at historian Tom Hooper's work, you'll see that arrests of gay men actually increased across the country after decriminalization. Remember, this was way before apps. If you wanted to hook up, baths or bars were the best places to go, so those were the places that police targeted. There were a series of bath and bar raids in Montreal and Toronto and Edmonton and Ottawa and other cities. The Toronto bath raids of February 5th, 1981 are the most famous. When Toronto's pro-gay mayor, John Sewell, and the first openly gay candidate for city council, George Hislop, were both defeated in the municipal elections in 1980, the cops figured we were vulnerable and swooped. They smashed into most of the city's gay baths, trashed the places, and arrested almost 300 men on a range of charges. It wasn't just the baths, they were also hassling the bars on concocted liquor license violations, and they were busting individuals and bookstores for porn. Basically, they were trying to shut down the gay village and recriminalize homosexuality. But that night when they hit the baths, they bit off more than they could chew. In Toronto, for the first time, the activists and the small business people and the normally non-political bar and bath patrons all came together in a series of massive demonstrations. We raised money to fight the charges in court and won. We made common cause with Black and South Asian communities who are also experiencing police brutality and harassment, and we demanded community control of the police. We called for changes to the criminal code to get rid of antiquated laws that still criminalized sex. That new community unity also laid the foundation for dealing with the next crisis that was about to affect us all, the AIDS epidemic. This is Tim McCaskill, a gay liberation dinosaur from another planet and author of Queer Progress.
Hi everyone, this is Mark Tewksbury, Olympic champion, leader, humanitarian. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
It's Thanksgiving, a family wedding, or some other event that brings relatives together. Someone you haven't seen in a while comes over and asks you one of those questions. Where are you applying to college? Where are you working? What are you studying? Got a girlfriend? Your eyes shift sideways and back to center again. Your brain is literally shuffling through all possible responses while simultaneously trying to decide whether to go with the response that gets the positive reaction or the one that might be truer but just might lead to confusion, disappointment, or outright judgment. You shift your weight to the other foot and begin to explain, getting some credits at community college before going back or transferring, your major in comp sci, your demo tape, your internship with a political campaign, working construction, your entry-level job at a nonprofit, waiting tables while auditioning, a master's in teaching, the startup idea you and your friends have, a 100-hour-a-week job on Wall Street, driving for Lyft, the fact that you have no fucking clue, the fact that your girlfriend is a boyfriend or is pregnant or is from a background you know this relative just cannot or will not want to relate to. The responses are predictable. If your answer pleases your relative, you're golden. You get a big smile, a fist bump, maybe an awesome or whatever. If their face has that oh look on it, no such luck. They'll nod up and down with a tight smile, which tries but fails to mask their judgment. If they're a real jerk about it, they'll outright say that what you're doing is wrong-headed or dumb. That actually happened to me once, and it sucked. I'll tell you about it later. But I think the most excruciating response is when they literally don't understand what you're talking about, and you try to explain it further, and instead of trying harder to get you, to see you, to know you for you, they turn their lack of understanding into a critique of your entire generation. What is it with you millennials? In my day, we knew how to get a job and stick with it until we retired. You scan the room for someone who can rescue you from this hell as your relative drones on.
Julie Lythcott Haims, hi, how are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm well, and I'm delighted to be with you.
I have to say thank you for being here, to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that, especially to talk about your book, Your Turn, How to Be an Adult. Talk to me about what you are getting at, what the messages that you're getting at within the pages of Your Turn. Talk to me about what it is that you're getting at.
Absolutely. I'm a former university dean, and in the years when I played that role on the Stanford University campus, I heard many millennials worrying that they didn't have what it took to thrive in adulthood. These were the years when that generation began to say, I don't want to adult. I don't know how to adult. Adulting is scary. And I didn't blame them. I didn't say what's wrong with them. I thought with curiosity and humility, if an entire generation or many representatives thereof seem scared to enter a phase of life the rest of us more naturally, more comfortably entered, what does that say about society and how can I help? So this book aims to demystify adulting. I think part of it is sort of, it feels like a vast unknown, and it is vast and it is unknown, but that doesn't have to be scary. So I think I'm trying to acknowledge the fears and the concerns, but also shine a warm light and say, hey, here's what it is. In childhood, you're more or less the responsibility of someone else, as long as your parents reasonably had their act together. In adulthood, it's the flip. You're more or less in charge of yourself. You wake up every day knowing it's on you to take care of business, your body, your bills, your belongings. Doesn't mean you go it alone. You have your chosen fam, your friends, your colleagues. You choose where to live, where to work, with whom to be in relationships so that you can be supported in being you. And all of that freedom is available to you in adulthood, unlike in childhood, which I think members of the queer community can really appreciate once we are able to leave that place we're from or that family that maybe didn't quite get us or worse. You know, in adulthood, we get to choose with whom to align our lives. And so that's a very clear message of this book. It's on you. It is your one wild and precious life, quoting the late poet Mary Oliver. And in this book, as the author, I'm rooting for every single individual to live it.
So, Julie, finish your education, get a job, leave home, marry, have kids, have children. What does it mean to be an adult?
Well, the 5 things you just labeled are the markers of adulthood created by psychologists many, 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 many decades ago. And I really ask at the start of this book, do those markers of adulthood apply in this 21st century? And my answer is largely they don't. Why finish education when you might live to be 100? Shouldn't education be something you can continually tap into at appropriate times of life to retool, level up, or just for your, intellectual enrichment? Leave home is hard to do. Where I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, it is so damn unaffordable here. Even the most highly educated, smart as a whip young person can't emerge from college and rent a 1-bedroom apartment unless they are in one of those small handful of professions where you make a ton of money and often coincidentally hate your life, but at least you have the money, right? So many of our cities have become unaffordable, at least here in the US. And so maybe you can't leave home as a practical matter. And that doesn't mean you're not an adult. It's a question of how are you behaving in that childhood home? Are you behaving like an 8-year-old? Or are you behaving as a third adult alongside, if you've got 2 parents, alongside those people? Are you showing up willing to be responsible and accountable to make the place run while expecting, rightly so, your own freedom and independence? You don't have to marry to have kids. You don't have to have kids if you're married. You don't have to do either of those things anymore, right? These markers harken back to a day when women were the property of their dads and then became the property of their husbands, and everybody was presumed to be straight. And so you can just see the inadequacy of these markers. Get a job, I suppose that remains. That's the one that is sort of is everlasting, in that you have to have a way to support yourself. But look, even that concept is such a different concept than was the case for our parents and our grandparents. You don't have one job that you stick with for your entire life anymore. You have a lot of freedom and flexibility, and you get to switch it up and keep going in pursuit of your dreams. So I'm trying to present I'm trying to demonstrate that none of these things are lockstep or rigid, and you get to design it. But I think implicit in that is, the obligation to figure it out, that it's on you. It's no longer a lockstep plan. Maybe that's a little scary, but I think it's a delicious invitation to craft the life that you want to craft.
So in 2022, comedian Bill Maher, he released an HBO comedy special called Adulting. What is adulting?
I didn't see Bill Maher's special. I should take a look at it. But to me, adulting is you're no longer a child. You're no longer a dog on a leash held by your parents trying to tell you what to do, if that was your upbringing. You're no longer going through the motions of someone else telling you what you have to study next year, what you have to do this summer. You're in this space of it's my life, and it's on me to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills, and it's on me to figure out with whom I want to be in relationship. It's on me to figure out myself. What are the identities I carry? Let me understand that self, love and accept that self. I know, because of my own journey, that when we get to that place of self-acceptance, self-love, which I think is only available truly in adulthood, once we've figured out it's not about what my peers think of me, it's about what I think of me. Only when we get to that place of self-love are we really safe in the world, because you're most safe in the world. Because when you love yourself fully in the identities you carry, you take that self with you wherever you go. And so the belonging you seek is to yourself. You feel really clear, I know who this self is, and I carry it with me. It's an incredibly liberating state of mind and way of being. And that's most definitely available to us in adulthood if we're willing to do the work.
And this word, this term, adulting, do you know how this evolved, where this came from?
100%. It was the millennial generation that turned adult from a noun into a verb. They were the first to say, I don't want to adult. I don't know how to adult. Adulting is scary. And it raised a lot of eyebrows. Like, what are they doing? Why are they saying that? And again, I wasn't judging them. I was curious. Why have they decided it's such a thing that they have to speak about it in this active verb-like sense? They felt like they couldn't do it. And they would say things like, I don't know how to adult, i.e. I don't know how to file my taxes. I don't know how to change a tire. I don't know how to iron a shirt. And I think, that's a function of, well, maybe my parents didn't teach me. Maybe my academic upbringing was so much about intellectual enrichment or pressure or perfectionism that nobody bothered to teach me how to sew a button, or, they canceled shop class and home ec because it was all about the most advanced academic classes. There is that component that young people are arriving at age 18, age 21, not knowing how to do the tasks of life that in prior generations you just sort of learned along the way because everything wasn't so busy and stressful. But in my book, I say that knowing how to iron the shirt or sew the button or pay the bill is really the easy stuff you can learn by watching a YouTube video. The harder space is inhabiting the mindset of wanting to adult and, of course, having to adult, meaning you're not so privileged that there are a set of people making your decisions for you. Wanting to adult is saying, yeah, it's work, it's responsibility, but I want the delicious feeling of knowing I'm in charge of my life. Too many young adults are still under the thumb of well-meaning parents who are trying to handle every little thing. We parents think it's helpful. It's actually undermining agency and resilience and really makes a young person feel like, am I an adult? I'm not sure I am, because I have to check in with my parents on everything.
Your book is called Your Turn. Was there ever any thought of calling it adulting?
Absolutely. And I might have preferred that because I like the term myself. As a practical matter, I'm turning around and looking at my bookshelf right now. There's an Adulting 101 book that's out there. There's an Adulting 468 Steps. The term was already addressed in title form. But I think also my publisher, Henry Holt, they want this book to be evergreen, and they think that term is a passing fad. I'm not sure I agree with them, but these are battles an author can fight, but is not likely to win.
And on that adulting note, we will return after I iron my rainbow country skirt. Of course, darling, of course.
Hi, I'm Paul Poirier, Canadian champion in ice dance and 3-time Olympian, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Our Health, a Canada-wide 2S LGBT QQIA+ community survey, is looking for your involvement. The Our Health survey aims to explore the current state of health among two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, and other sexually and gender diverse people in Canada. The study team especially wants to hear from community members who are living with chronic health conditions like diabetes, cancer, and fibromyalgia. This is to ensure that people living with conditions that are often underrepresented or less understood are included in this work. Participants will also have the opportunity to do a test at home to screen for COVID-19 antibodies, HIV, hepatitis C, and syphilis. All data collected will be used to advocate for programs, services, and policies that better support the health and well-being of 2S LGBT QQIA+ people across Canada. All participants will receive a small honorarium for completing the survey. For more information, visit cbrc.net/our_health. That's cbrc.net/our_HEALTH.
Hello, Canada. I'm author Anthony Bedulka. I wanted to let you know that my latest novel, Going to Beautiful, is out right now. It's available wherever you get your favorite books. Going to Beautiful tells the story of Jake Hardy, a celebrity chef, and Eddie Kravitz, a fashion designer. They've got fame, a great kid, an awesome dog, and they've got each other. They really had it all. Until they didn't. Going to Beautiful is out right now. It's available wherever you get your favorite books. Talk soon, Canada.
Hitmakers is a full-service, award-winning record label and social enterprise based in Iqaluit, Nunavut. We specialize in the creating and marketing of world-class Inuit and Indigenous music, including pop, hip-hop, rock, folk, and traditional Inuit music. Hitmakers has studios in Iqaluit, Ottawa, and Toronto. The label currently works with more than 20 Inuit and Indigenous artists, and we represent and promote many more. The company was founded in 2016, and our mission is to create viable careers in the arts for Inuit and Indigenous artists through music, media, and education. Our secondary mission is to empower artists to share and strengthen their stories and culture. To learn more, please connect with us on social media or at hitmakers.com. That's hitmakers with a Z. Thanks for listening. The
phone rings. I got a message from the mayor. He's going to call me back the next day. I get the call, and he said, if you'd accept, we'd like to honor you with the key to the city. There was an event later that year in May. Just a key, right? Like, key to what? A decent job, a good singing career. It's really a metaphor, but it's history. So a reporter wants to talk to me and says, so it's a key, right? Like, what's the big deal? I said, well, not everybody gets the key. So I looked it up, and I guess it is kind of a big deal.
The date, May 17th, 2018, when trans activist Susan Gapka made history by becoming the first trans woman to be presented with the key to the city of Toronto. By the way, past recipients include Rush and the Raptors.
I'm Brian Bradley, author of Outrageous Misfits, female impersonator Craig Russell and his wife, Lori Russell-Eady. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
So you are a former Stanford University Dean of Freshmen and Undergrads. You're also a New York Times bestselling author. When your 2015 book, How to Raise an Adult, when that book became a bestseller for you, that moment, what did that mean to you?
Oh my gosh. Mark, you're the first person to ever ask me that. I appreciate it. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is amazing. I'm actually staring. I have a little printout on I have a little outdoor yard pod office here in my backyard in California. And I'm now staring at the photocopy of the New York Times book review list that shows my book as number 2 in the education category. And I was like, wow, I've arrived.
Is that how you felt? You arrived?
I mean, I didn't know I was going to be able to write. I came to writing late in life. As a kid, I struggled with writing. I struggled with reading. I think I have an undiagnosed learning disability, which is very common in Gen X because we just didn't know. They didn't know. Nobody tested us. So I didn't come to reading easily, which meant I wasn't a great writer. I was constantly given the feedback that I was a passive writer. I really set out in my 20s and 30s to force myself to closely read, to develop better reading comprehension. And so my writing improved as an adult. I began writing poetry in my late 30s. That's what took me to an MFA program when I decided I wanted to write a book about what I was seeing on my campus. So all of this was improbable. The book deal was improbable. The fact that the New York Times reviewed the book on the front page of the book review was improbable. And when I made it to the bestseller list, I have to tell you, that was 6 months after the book came out. And I think it was because I took myself out on the road, not funded by my publisher. I just went on Facebook and I said, they're not sending me on a book tour, but I want to come to your community if you're concerned about helicopter parenting. I can stay on your couch. Can you pay for my airfare? I will come. And I hustled my way through America from late August 2015 through early November. And I'm pretty sure that hustling had something to do with the volume of books that were sold. So I do look at it, maybe I've arrived isn't right, but more like, wow, you know, I worked hard and so did a bunch of other people who care about this book. And it's not to say hard work pays off all the time. You can work your tail off and not make it onto the list. I think it was hard work plus luck, but yeah, there was something about being a bestseller that is undeniably a resume item. It's, you know, it's there. I got to go to a TED Talk because I wrote this book, and now my TED Talk has like millions of views, and that's another sort of legitimizer. But I think, you know, I'm old enough now not to think that those things define me. I'm proud of those things, but I hope it's the case that I would be proud of myself 3 books in just for having started on this journey of trying to be a human who supports other humans with my writing. Ultimately, the best reward are the letters I get from readers, the notes, the DMs, when they just say like, you know, I'm so glad I found your book. It's really, you know, I feel less alone. And that's what's happening for me with Your Turn.
So 2015, How to Raise an Adult. 2021, Your Turn. Are these books companion books?
Definitely, Your Turn is pitched as a sequel to How to Raise an Adult. That was what I signed a contract for. And there's a middle book, Memoir on Being Black and Biracial in White Spaces, that came out in 2017. Definitely framed as a sequel. The first book is on a type of parenting that's harming kids and how to not be that parent. The sequel is squarely for the kids. But I have to say it was always about the kids. In other words, Mark, I'm not a parenting expert. I'm a lawyer who became a university dean who tried to write nonfiction to help people. There was a parenting problem that I addressed in book 1, but the person I was rooting for was the kid. So with both books, it's me trying to be this fierce advocate for the right of each child to be able to make their way unfettered by someone else's control, someone else's opinions, someone else's bias, right? This is me saying, you matter. I see you. You are valid. Your needs, your emotions, your feelings, your dreams, your fears are valid. I'm here slightly down the path of life, shining a warm light in your face, just trying to say, I care, I'm here, I've learned a lot, I've learned some of it the hard way, trying to make your life, your path a little easier by sharing what I have learned and by bringing in the stories of close to 36 other humans from all walks of life who have had entirely different experiences than I've had. I'm trying to reach every reader by deliberately bringing a diverse set of humans into my pages to put their stories on the page to illustrate the points I'm trying to share with every reader. And that was a deliberate way to try to say to any reader, look, I had you in mind when I was writing this book.
So 2015, How to Raise an Adult. 2017, Real American, a memoir. 2021, Your Turn, How to Be an Adult. You were talking earlier about coming to writing later on in life and earlier struggling with it. What made you keep pursuing writing?
What a good question. Well, I've always loved ideas, and I've loved the way we can wield language for impact. So I was a bit of a theater kid. I was someone who enjoyed oratory. I enjoyed the opportunity to align one word next to the next, and go for both what the ear can hear and what the mind can see with language. I think I was drawn to law because I loved the way words could be wielded to affect change, to better the life of a human, to transform a society. So I think that love of language, that respect for language and fascination with it has always been with me. As I said, reading was a challenge, pulling my eyes down the page and comprehending what I saw was the challenge. I think I've got ADHD, never diagnosed. I figured myself out. I figured out methods for working around, designing around that problem. And so the capability finally matched the yearning that was always there.
We talked about you becoming a New York Times bestseller. Congrats on that. Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
2008, the Democratic National Convention. You were chosen as a delegate from California's Congressional District 14 for then Senator Barack Obama. Talk to me about that moment. What was this all about?
Well, sort of hard to recall these days, given who he became, but there was a time when nobody could pronounce his name. And I had heard him give a speech at the 2004 Democratic Convention. And I was so captivated, my family so captivated by his oratory. When I learned he was thinking of running for president in early 2007, I wrote a letter to his campaign saying, I'm in. Where do I need to show up? Because I want to support this guy. And at the time they were headquartered in Chicago, which is where he was from. And they flew me out and offered me a job to work there. It was 2007. So my own kids, spring of 2007. So my own kids were 6 and 4, maybe. Or 7 and 5. And I couldn't uproot my young family to Chicago to go work for a guy people couldn't pronounce the name of. And so I said, I can't come to Chicago. I didn't want to be a commuter parent. I said, I'll just wait, see if you make it to California. They had to make it through Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. They said, if we get to California, we'll tap you to help us out. I said, great. So I helped open the office in Oakland. It was the first office outside of the 4 early primary states they opened, was in Oakland, California. Helped open the office in Palo Alto, where I live. And ultimately ran for delegate because I was just such a believer in his capacity to govern and to lead and to inspire. He is one who can wield words with this just turbocharged ability of of mind, body, and spirit and heart. And he's a good person. And I just wanted to be all in around that. So I ran for delegate. It was a competitive race. And I won. largely because a lot of my Stanford students came out and supported me. Getting off campus to go show up for some weird election, there they came, and off I went. And I felt so proud. The United States is such an interesting experiment. You stand as a delegate in a cohort with the people from your state, and California is the biggest state by population. And there we were under the banner that said California. I get chills as I say this, as they read the roll call of how many votes are coming in from this state. We had the biggest number of votes because we're the biggest state. I just felt chills. I felt like I was, a tiny, tiny little thread in this tapestry that was being woven. And I just felt pride and joy and delight. Of course, we didn't know then that rather than this being, the launch of a new era, this was really going to be the end of the civil rights movement, in that the backlash of white nationalism would come angry and loud. And that's where that's the reality we're living in now. But those years were absolutely full of hope and joy. And I was delighted to get to be a tiny part of it.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about being part of history? I'm not trying to make myself out to have a bigger role than I did. It was just more me walking alongside as something was happening. I cherish it. I absolutely cherished being in the convention. Was in Denver, Colorado, and it was thousands and thousands of people, all Democrats. We were all on the same side, all believing in this man and this platform and in the possibilities that attended his potential election. We wanted universal health care, which is something, as you well know, as a Canadian, is fraught in America. And, we had a lot of hopes, and some of them were realized. And yet there were the opponents on the other side whose sole job, as they articulated it, was to make sure that Barack Obama was a one-term president. So to be a part of the effort to help him win again might have been my greater joy. With a colleague, Mike Adelot, I helped lead a call center here in Silicon Valley that became the winningest call center in the United States. That is, we were making calls into all kinds of swing states, and our metrics were the highest and best, and we were just incredibly proud of ourselves, being able to leverage other people's abilities to get out and vote. And that felt really good too. So you are a mother, you are a woman, you are biracial. You're also part of the LGBT community. You are a queer person, a queer individual. Talk to me about what it means to be queer.
Queerness for me is the acknowledgement and acceptance and embrace of the fact that I am attracted to people, quite frankly, regardless of their gender. I identify as bi and queer. I will also say I'm omni and pan. I am sapio. I am drawn to humans at the level of their energy, their personality, and their body parts are just sort of what you play with when you're intimate. And, as I say that, it doesn't sound at all controversial to me, but I couldn't say it until I was like 40, and I'm now 54. I think it was always true about me, but I wasn't able to own it until my 40s. And fortunately, I had a partner, a cis male partner, who's my life partner of 34 years, who I went to and said, hey, I just realized I'm like super attracted to this person, a woman I worked with. And he was fantastic. He said, tell me more. I'm curious about what that means for you. And as a couple, we were able to begin exploring what that meant. And he was starting to have the same considerations about himself, about not being straight. And, we just sort of held each other's hands and kept going. and this is radio and I don't want to get too personal about what that meant, but I will say that being able to just speak with ease about the truth of me is so liberating.
And not to be judged.
And, right? Or to say, screw it, if they're going to judge me, that's on them. That's on them. I know who I am. I love this self. I accept that it's complex. I'm okay with that. I think the human community is complex. I think we're all our own unique individual. I'm here for us to accept ourselves and figure out where we can be in community with those who will cherish us as we are. And so I know that I haven't got the most queer experiences in that I've got this outwardly hetero marriage to a cis guy. I have the cover of what appears to be a straight marriage. I haven't suffered on the basis of my queerness. I'm privileged in all kinds of other ways, my socioeconomic status. I'm biracial and Black. I have very light skin. There's so many ways in which my journey has not been anywhere near as challenging as that of other members of groups with which I identify. And yet, I can tell you the first time I went to Pride here in San Francisco, took a car to a train to a subway, emerged out of the subway station onto the streets of San Francisco for Pride. And it was so long. I'm almost crying now just retelling it. Like, I remember I'm out. I'm here. People will see me here. What will they think? Am I okay? Am I safe? Yes, yes, yes. We're doing this anyway, not knowing what could happen. My partner Dan and I went together. And, that's probably when I knew that I was queer, in that it wasn't just an idea. It wasn't just musing. It wasn't a set of relationships. It was, I am here deliberately standing out in public on a sunny day in a big city to say, count me also when you count the queer folks, because I'm here.
When audiences read one of your writings, like your latest book, Your Turn, How to Be an Adult, what do you hope your audiences come away with after reading one of your writings?
I go for a very close personal narrative. My narrative voice, certainly in Real American and in Your Turn, is very close. How to Raise an Adult is a little bit more analytical, a little bit more of a distant narrator, although there is some memoir thrown in there. I want readers to feel seen. I want readers to gasp and say, my God, how did she know? How did she know? I've mentioned that Your Turn is filled with stories of 36 other people. And that's partly because some people learn from stories. Some people want the self-help list, and that's in there. Some people want to know what I went through, that's in there. But these profiles of others are in there because some people just want to read story and learn from story. I also included all these folks to demonstrate, as I reflect upon in the commitment to inclusion that comes with the book at the end, I wanted to demonstrate that you got to write nonfiction keeping everybody in mind. As a Black, biracial, queer, bisexual woman, I'm tired of opening books that purport to be for all, and yet every example is drawn from the straight, white, middle-class, educated slice of life. I know and respect that there are so many people who are not in those categories. And I want my readers to know that I know that and that I'm thinking of them. I also include in this book beyond folks who are queer, beyond folks who are genderqueer, beyond folks who are trans, beyond folks who are of every race and socioeconomic status and degree of education or not, disabled, abled. I include people with mental health challenges and learning differences, not as an asterisk, see page 400 if you're depressed, but like, hey, if you're depressed, what I'm advising you to do by way of connecting with others is going to be really hard for you right now. And I want you to center your mental health needs before you try any of this other stuff I'm suggesting. So throughout, I'm trying to be inclusive in my choice of pronouns and inclusive in my examples and inclusive with my caveats. Eye contact may be hard if you have social anxiety, I'll say, while saying how beneficial eye contact is. So that's my way of trying to really hold space for every reader to enter this book and feel supported and seen. It's hard in a book to mimic a conversation, but that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to imagine every reader one at a time in my most comfortable living room, couch or chair, just feeling ease, feeling seen, supported, and at ease as we go through some really challenging topics.
Well said. Well said. Julie Lythcott Haims, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate your passion.
Mark, I love being in Canada. In fact, I want to move there. Don't tell, but I'm sure y'all hear that all the time now. Really such a pleasure. Your questions are so thoughtful. And I just want to offer to any listener who's with us still, thank you for listening. Whatever came up for you in your own body as I spoke with Mark is a clue from you to you that something we discussed matters. Take that forward. What matters to you matters.
Your Turn, How to Be an Adult is available wherever you get your favorite books. And on Amazon.ca, Your Turn has a rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars. For even more on this best-selling author, simply visit JulieLythcott-Haims.com.
Hi, I'm writer Adam Smith, author of Deep Sniff, A History of Poppers and Queer Futures. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, TIFF CEO Cameron Bailey fills us in on what to expect at the 2022 Toronto International Film Festival.
Good evening and welcome. It's the opening night.
Tonight, we thank you. I am so humble and so grateful to be here this evening.
I'm extremely excited to be here.
Thank you all for holy shit. There's a lot of y'all.
I'm very proud to be here tonight, and I'm so grateful that you joined us.
Don't stop till you get enough.
Hello, Toronto.
Happy Halloween, Michael.
Can we talk about this? Toronto, the best of them all.
That's it. That's amazing.
If you ever feel love, the best place to watch films is TIFF.
I want to thank Toronto because you have always honored, celebrated, exalted female directors.
The warmth and the love that you gave me is something I will never forget in my life.
So exciting to be here at Toronto in this gorgeous theater.
This is just like Christmas Day. Thanks to you for coming.
This is truly a very special evening for me.
This is why we do what we do, you know?
I love this festival and it's an honor to be back.
Behind me is what we call society, what we see in there every day, and what we have on screen. Let's keep on doing movies about us. We're making pictures about what's happening today in society. Thank you for coming.
Cameron Bailey, hi, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I am well. I'm better now that I'm here with you to talk about the 47th Annual Toronto International Film Festival. Crazy. I know the last 2 years have been challenging, a global pandemic. 2020, I believe the festival was all virtual. 2021, it was a hybrid. 2022, is the Toronto International Film Festival, is it back in person?
It is 100% back in person.
Yay.
And we couldn't be more excited. You know, I got to tell you, the last 2 years have been hard. They've been hard for everyone, no matter where you are in the world, what you've been doing. When you're trying to put on a festival where the goal is to gather a whole lot of people together
indoors, sitting right next to each other. That's the one thing you can't really do in a pandemic. So we found ways, we had hybrid models. We used digital technology to reach people across Canada. We did drive-ins. We had distance seating last year. And of course, everyone masked, all of those things. But now we are in a different stage. So we can gather people in person, full capacity houses. We're closing down King Street to put on our own festival street in front of our main venues during the first 4 days of the festival. And we're looking forward to inviting the whole world that loves movies to join us.
For yourself, what are you excited in regards to the films this year? What are you excited about to bring to the TIFF audience? What films are you looking forward to for people to see?
Even more than specific films, and I will get to a couple of those, but even more than specific films, I think it's the feeling that you get when you're watching a movie, not by yourself or with a small group of people, family, friends at home and on your couch, but when you're in a movie theater with hundreds of people and you're sharing those emotions. You're sharing the tears, the laughs, the excitement, the tension, the suspense. And that all gets magnified. It gets bigger when you're sharing it with a lot of other people, those emotions. We haven't had that for a long time. It's been hard to find those experiences. Summer movies have helped a lot, but the kind of rich emotional experiences that we get from the kind of films we show at the festival, we haven't really been able to do that in a movie theater together for a long time. So beginning with our opening film, The Swimmers, which is an incredibly powerful story of two young sisters with a dream of being competitive swimmers, but they happen to be refugees. That movie's an incredibly powerful experience. The Steven Spielberg film that we're premiering, The Fabelmans, another incredibly powerful experience. A movie like Sarah Polley's Women Talking, which adapts the Miriam Toews novel, also a deep, rich, powerful, and challenging experience, I think, for a lot of viewers. It deals with some very tough material, but does it in such an insightful, beautiful way. And those, experiencing those movies together, I think is just going to be, a much, much bigger and maybe longer lasting experience for people.
Mm-hmm. Out of curiosity, how many films are part of this year's festival?
We have about 200 feature films and about 50 short films in the festival. We also have lots of other events, on-stage conversations with people like Viola Davis, Eddie Redmayne, and others. We have music, live music on our festival street during the first 4 days of the festival. Lots of other events as well as the films on screen.
Festival at Home. What is Festival at Home?
Well, we didn't want to completely abandon what we had done in the last 2 years, which is develop a digital platform where you can take part in the festival at home as well. So we've brought that back in a smaller scale way. So we've got about 24 feature films that will be available for home viewing across Canada through our digital TIFF Bell Lightbox. You can get all the information on our website, and you can take part in the festival, get a taste of it. From the comfort of your own home. But I think the bigger experience will be in cinemas this year.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you can't get to Toronto. Somebody living in Whitehorse can...
Exactly. Anywhere across Canada.
Yes. So TIFF has various aspects to it, including I believe this year is the 4th annual TIFF Tribute Awards. Some past recipients include Sir Anthony Hopkins, Jessica Chastain, Kate Winslet. This year has the first performance award going to the cast. I can believe it's the cast of My Policeman, which stars Harry Styles. Inquiring minds want to know, will Harry Styles be in Toronto?
We certainly expect him to be, yes. Not only is he receiving a tribute award for his performance in My Policeman, along with his fellow cast members, the 6 members of the ensemble cast who play the 3 main characters in the movie at different periods of time, but we're also making the world premiere of My Policeman, and it's just a terrific performance from Harry and the rest of the cast. Of course, he was just in Toronto performing on stage, playing his music, singing. This is a different Harry Styles. He's quite a serious actor, very committed to the craft, and he does terrific work in My Policeman. And it's a very powerful story set in the mid-1950s in England, where he plays a policeman who falls in love with a man, but it is a time of great repression. And he feels compelled to marry a woman instead, but carries on this relationship with a man that he truly loves. And it makes for very, very powerful drama, and the cast is terrific.
And I take it you've seen that film. How was it? Yes. How was Harry Styles' performance?
He's great. You know, this is a man who can command, 50,000 people in a stadium with his music, but cinema is a different art form. It's a much more intimate art form, and it really works so well in close-ups and in scenes with just a few people, and he does that very, very well. It's I think a performance full of courage. This is a music icon who's got a sort of image to protect, but you don't see any of that. He's not trying to play a pop star Harry Styles in the movie. He really digs into the character that he's playing, and it delivers, I thought, a very persuasive and emotional performance.
1976, the Festival of Festivals, the Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF. I believe you began as a programmer back in 1990, Perspective Canada, I believe.
That's right.
2022 marks your first year as CEO. So my last question for you, Cameron Bailey, is simply this. In 2022, what does TIFF mean to you?
TIFF it's a gathering place. It's a place where we can get together and share an art form that I love. I fell in love with movies as a college student, and I'm still in love with movies. And not just share the art form in terms of experiencing it, watching and listening to what movies give us, but sharing how we respond to films. One of the great things about films is that they open you up. The screen is huge. It's bigger than us. We're in the dark. We're with other people, and we're open, we're vulnerable in a way to whatever the movie is unfolding for us. And I love that experience. I love that we can do it on such a grand scale every year, where we have almost 500,000 people participate in the festival in one way or another, and affect people, make them feel something, take them places they haven't been before through the stories they're watching on screen, and then walk away just a little bit transformed, thinking maybe about their own lives or about the world around them in a different way. I find that's incredibly powerful. I feel like it is a gift that I have to be able to be doing this work. And that's what TIFF means to me.
Well said. Cameron Bailey, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciated the conversation. Thanks for your questions.
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
For all things TIFF, simply visit tiff.net. And if you can't make it to Toronto, but you would still like to be part of the festival, check out Festival at Home on the TIFF website.
I'm very proud to be here tonight, and I'm so grateful that you joined us.
Don't stop till you get enough.
Hello, Toronto!
Happy Halloween, Michael.
Muchas gracias. Toronto, the best of them all.
If you ever been the base to watch them.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station specifically for our issues to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us. And of course our artists and the things that we do globally and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com where everything is connected and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, follow me on socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms, including audible.com and iHeartRadio. And finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, despite all the craziness happening in the world around us today, know this, that we are living in days of making our dreams come true, so believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, this is Police Constable Danielle Botno, also known as LGBT Cop, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.